Hi, everybody. I'm Dani, and I'm one of your TAs. So let's get into this week's lesson. And this week is about proteins. So proteins, the building blocks by me. All right, so chapter 7, learning objectives. 1, discuss building blocks of proteins, amino acids. 2, outline functions of proteins in the body. 3, differentiate unique dietary patterns as they pertain to protein. 4, calculate individual dietary protein needs and discuss protein-rich foods. 5, design a vegan meal containing a complete protein. So learning objective 1A, define an amino acid. So an amino acid is a small organic molecule that contain nitrogen. Amino acids can link together via a peptide bond. And so whenever 2 or more amino acids are linked together, they're called a peptide. Therefore, peptide bond. So if 2 peptides are together, that would be a dipeptide. 3 would be a tripeptide, and anything more than 3 would be a polypeptide, proteins. Learning objective 1B. The central carbon is bonded to 4 items. What are they? So they're bonded to a hydrogen, an amine group, a carbolic acid group, and side chain dependent on the amino acid. So learning objective 1C, the image of the central carbon. So here you can see the central, as it goes central carbon, this carbon is in the center. They have the amino group, the variable side chain, the carbolic acid group, and that hydrogen, like we had mentioned previously. So, learning objective 1D, what does the NIH say, so the National Library of Medicine, about essential amino acids? So, essential amino acids, indispensable amino acids, cannot be synthesized by humans and vertebrates. These amino acids must come from the diet because the body lacks the necessary metabolic pathways. So our human body cannot synthesize essential amino acids. And we have to get them from things that we eat. So learning objective 2, outline the functions of proteins and how they are made. So there's 8 major functions of proteins. So for 1, cell growth, repair, and maintenance. 2, enzymes and hormones. Fluid and electrolyte balance. Maintain acid-base balance. Immunity, an energy source. Transport and storage of nutrients. Nerve function, blood clotting, and wound healing. What is it? What it is. Excuse me. So proteins is found in both plant and animal-based foods. So when we think of animal protein, we're thinking of meats. So chicken, beef. So like ground beef, pork chops, things like that. Plants, we think of beans, lentils, things like that. So protein is made up of hundreds or thousands of amino acids. So essential and non-essential amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids that can be combined to make every type of protein in the human body. Essential amino acids cannot be made by the body and must be consumed in the diet. And out of those 20, 9 are considered essential. non-essential amino acids can be made by the body. So our bodies can produce non-essential amino acids. And so 11 of these 20 are non-essential and can be made by the body. So where is it found? So we have beans, peas, and lentils, so legumes, dairy products, eggs, meat, poultry, and seafood, soy products, nuts and seeds, and whole grains. So all these are protein sources. What it does. So protein provides 4 kcals per gram of energy. The key is important body processes, is non-component of every cell in the body, necessary for growth and development, and a part of your skin, hair, and nails. So it is 4 kcals per gram of energy. It's key important body processes. It makes up every cell in the body, and it's necessary for that growth, development, and it's part of your hair, skin, and nails. Health facts. So most Americans consume enough protein to meet their recommended needs. However, evidence suggests that diets lower in processed meats, refined grains, and added sugars, and higher in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, and seafood are associated with reduced risk in heart disease. And that is mainly due to a lot of those processed meats, refined grains, and added sugars are really high in fat. And so that fat content is really hard on your arteries and on your heart. So dietary guidelines for Americans recommend a variety of protein sources from both plants and animals. So let's take a closer look at protein quality. So a complete protein, so this contains all essential amino acids, versus a incomplete protein contains some but not all essential amino acids, and does not contain enough of one or more essential amino acid. So that goes into what is a complementary protein. So it's 2 or more incomplete protein sources that are combined to create a complete protein. So what would be a complete protein? So that would be our animal-based proteins, for example. However, so with a complementary, we want to look at these beans in rice. So like has 2 or more together to create that complete. So 2 incomplete will be now a complementary to create a complete protein. So complementary protein combinations. So we have beans. So what would complement that would be nuts, seeds, and grains. So like that rice and beans in the last slide. And then here we go. We'll have the grains and legumes, nuts and seeds with legumes, vegetables with grains, nuts, and seeds, corn, and legumes. Action steps. How can you monitor your protein in your diet? So you can choose a variety of different sources, such as those lentils, tofus, nuts and seeds, beans, and dairy products. And you can also select lean meats or try baking, broiling, or steaming meats. So when we bake, broil, and steam, we're no longer, like say, when you are frying something, it's completely saturated in that fat. So that would make it a little bit leaner for one, and lower in that fat content. So remember how I said those ultra processed foods are a little higher in fat. So when you deep fry something in grease, you're increasing that fat content. So we would select lean meats, and baking and broiling and steaming help reduce that fat content. So learning objective 3, differentiate unique dietary patterns as they pertain to protein. So 3A, here we go. Differentiate unique dietary patterns as they pertain to protein. So what is a dietary pattern? Why might it be important for vegetarians, pescatarians, or vegans to be conscious of their protein intake? So what is a fruitarian? Some fruitarians wish, like James, to avoid killing anything, including plants, and refer to ahisma fruitarianism. For some fruitarians, the motivation comes from a fixation on a utopian past, their hope being to return to a past that predates an agrarian society to when humans were simply gatherers. And so, just to add, so why would it be important for people on these diets to, be conscious of their protein intake? And that just goes back to what are the main roles of protein in our body? And so that if you're not getting ample amount, therefore you're not getting one of those 8 ways protein is beneficial to your body. So being cognizant and conscious of, make sure your body is getting enough is key. So what is a vegan? From the Vegan Society, someone whose diet is plant-based and avoids all animal-based foods, including dairy products, honey, eggs, animal protein, gelatin. So anything coming from an animal or made by an animal or directly an animal. So dairy products, so that's milk, cheese, yogurt, honey, so it's made from those bees, eggs from the chickens, and gelatin is from fat of animals and animal protein. What is a lacto-ovo-vegetarian? So someone who eats all plants, milk, and eggs. So we're adding in that milk and egg component into that diet. What is a pescatarian? Someone who eats all plants, milk, eggs, and fish. So this would include other types of seafood as well. What is a flexitarian? Someone who eats mainly plant-based, allows moderate consumption of fish and meat, but sometimes called a casual vegetarian. So someone that has a majority of plant-based diet, however, they also allow themselves to consume fish and meat of sorts, but they will also have spurts of, simply eating plant-based. However, they are able and willing to add fish and meat into their diet. So who is an omnivore? An individual who consumes food from both plant and animal origin would be considered an omnivore. So veggies plus meat equals omnivore. So nothing would be off limits. So all plant-based diet along with consuming all types of meats. And what is a carnivore diet? So this has been a big topic lately. So we can just dive in a little bit to what it is. So a diet consisting only meat and organs would be referred to as a carnivore diet. So someone who is only consuming forms of meat, so animal protein and organs in their diet. So somebody that could, would really only they're having chicken, steak. They're also having pork, things like that. So only meats and organs in this diet. So, learning objective 4A, what are the essential minimum protein needs of a sedentary individual? So, let me just remind you what sedentary individual means. So, that is somebody that is lightly to moderately active, healthy individual. For a healthy individual, the minimum protein required is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, or 0.36 grams protein per pound of body weight per day. So, easiest way to calculate this is your body weight in kilograms, multiply that by 0.8, and that will be the minimum protein needs or the estimated protein needs for yourself. For example, so protein requirements slider. So RDA, so that's the minimum protein requirements for your size, for your body, would be that 0.8. Ideally, we'd want 15 to 20% of our calories protein. So that would be a 1.2 grams times your body weight in kilograms per day. So MyFitnessPal will keep moving. So say that you're a little more active, 1.4. And then we keep going, hypertrophy. So that would be 1.6. And then a recovering individual. So this could be somebody that, has wounds or, has elevated needs due to sickness or a chronic condition. This person's needs for protein could be 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram for that day. So let's try calculating protein requirements. So this is Tom, our friend from Ike. He wants to be more healthful and comes to you for advice on what his minimum daily protein intake should be. As a friend who has attended FSHN 120 lectures on protein, so that's all of y'all, what would you recommend him do? So, and here we go. Our little blurb up here. Hey buddy, how much protein do you think I should consume each day if I weigh 220 pounds and have a rather sedentary lifestyle? So, Tom has a body weight of 220 pounds and has a sedentary lifestyle. So, what would you do? I'll give you a second, pause the video, figure it out, and we'll come back. All right. Now that you've tried, but let's go through this together. So Tom is traditionally healthy individual that is moderately active, hence needing the minimum 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight or 0.36 grams per pound of body weight per day. So note, so 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So if we want to convert that to his body weight, 2 kilograms would be 220 divided by 2.2, and that would be 100 kilograms. So we would take that 100 kilograms, multiply that by that 0.8 grams of protein, and that would give us 80 grams of protein would be the minimum for Tom daily. So Tom would need 80 grams of protein per day. All right. So let's keep going. So nitrogen balance equals protein balance. So a positive nitrogen balance, protein intake is more than protein loss. So gain greater than loss. So we can take a look at this scale. Protein turnover and nitrogen intake would be way more than protein loss. So then we go into nitrogen equilibrium. So protein intake is the same, as the losses. So gain equals or weighs the same in this example as loss. So therefore we have an even scale. Then we can go into our negative nitrogen balance, where protein intake is less than protein losses. So gain is less than losses. So therefore we have a scale where protein losses is weighing more. The next slide, if I can. So positive nitrogen equals positive protein, usually required during periods of growth. So consumption is greater than the excretion. Athletes, pregnant individuals, individuals recovering from illness or injury fall under this group. So we would want a higher protein need would be for these people or these different populations. So let's go on to learning objective 4B. So what are the protein needs of an individual who is working out for hypertrophy, and what does that look like to work out for hypertrophy? So this would be to work out to increase muscle mass, so adding weight through muscle deposition, endurance, resistant exercise, and nutrition. So here we can see some of these different individuals. So these would be our collegiate athletes or marathoners or, an athlete of some sort, whether that, that can look different. That could be a collegiate athlete, a professional athlete, or somebody that does it recreationally, but with the goals of increasing muscle mass through resistance exercise. So what are the protein requirements for individuals training for hypertrophy? Hypertrophy, so Journal of International Society of Sports Nutrition, they say 1.2 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. However, the National Strength and Conditioning Association has us from 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram per day. So nitrogen equilibrium and protein equilibrium. So nitrogen consumption equals nitrogen excretion. So most healthy sedentary adults fall in this group. So objective 4C, does MyFitnessPal overcalculate or undercalculate a person's protein needs? MyFitnessPal often overcalculates your protein requirements. So negative nitrogen equals negative protein balance. So that means protein excretion is greater than protein consumption. So this means, you're losing more than what you're actually eating or consuming. So this results from starvation, consumption of very low energy diets, severe illness, infections, serious burns, or injuries. So somebody that does this over a long period of time and may experience large amounts of weight loss, or it would actually be fat loss, muscle wasting, they could qualify for malnutrition, or they would be they would be in that category. So what happens if a person is in negative nitrogen balance? So the consequences of negative nitrogen balance, enzymes produced in the body require amino acids. Protein deficient individuals will start utilizing the muscle proteins for enzyme production. So, we know that carbs are our main energy source. However, if we're not consuming enough, our body is then going to start utilizing that muscle for enzyme production for energy. And we can get muscle wasting. So, the loss of muscle. So Diseases associated with protein deficiency, Miramis, overall starvation, insufficient amounts of all macros and calories in the diet, growth stops, and body tissue is wasted. All right. And I will most likely butcher this next one. I will butcher it. Kawashiorkar. So this would be protein malnutrition, sufficient amounts of other macros and calories, but insufficient in protein intake. So associated with edema. So edema would be fluid retention or somebody that, has that swelling due to lack of water excretion. So this person would only be insufficient in protein intake rather than all macros and calories. So here's our chart again. And now we also have that max limit. So 35% of our daily calories coming from protein. So learning objective 4D, compare both articles by using the left QR code to view the information from Men's Health entitled, "Here's exactly how much protein you need." To the right, the QR code to an article entitled, "How much protein should I eat?" So Men's Health, which is not a reputable source, state, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So amounts would be 8 to 10% of your daily intake. And then My Plate. So if we just go to the 19 to 30 for, I'll say, females, the daily protein would be 5.5 ounce equivalents. Moving on to learning objective 5A, design vegan meals containing a complete protein. Let's develop some meals. So in review, what is a complete protein? So a complete protein, so plant-based complete proteins would include soy products. So that's that tofu, tempeh, edamame, quinoa, buckwheat. Why is it important to understand protein quality when developing vegan meals and diets? So, ideas of breakfast foods. So, vegan breakfast goal, 30 grams of protein. So, we can have a pancake breakfast, protein pancakes, so 14 grams. So, that has that wheat and pea protein in there. Breakfast sausage, 12 grams. So, that's soy protein. Tofu scrambled eggs, 8 grams. And yet again, since it's tofu, so it's soy protein. Coffee and almond milk. So that almond protein, so that would give us approximately 35 grams of protein for that meal and 532 calories. So and then we also have a breakfast burrito. So protein tortillas, so that would be out of wheat and pea protein. So that gives us, we'll have 2 of those. So 14 grams. So probably each tortilla is 7. Black beans, so that's 14 grams. Avocado, salsa, and then matcha with almond milk would be that 1 gram, and that would give us around 31 grams of protein and 541 calories. All right. Ideas for lunch foods. So the vegan lunch goal would also be another 30 grams of protein. So we first have a quinoa power bowl. So with quinoa, so 8 grams there, edamame, another 8, some chickpeas, so that'd be 6 grams, baked tofu, another 8, and some sweet potato. So then that would put us at 1 gram for that. And total estimated would be 31 grams of protein, 553 calories for that quinoa power bowl. And so now we have that loaded peanut butter sandwich totaling around 30 grams of protein, 535 calories, which would include some protein bread. So that's made out of wheat, chickpea, and soy, peanut butter, banana, and peanuts. So let's go into ideas for a dinner meal. So yet again, we're at that 30 grams. So for 30 grams, for 551 calories, we have a lentil curry over brown rice. So lentils, 18 grams, potato, broccoli, asparagus, and then nutritional yeast, and that's giving us 3 grams, and brown rice, another 3. And then we have eggplant parmesan. So an eggplant gives around 4 grams of protein, lentils, 9, protein pasta, giving us a whopping 15 grams, tomato basil sauce with 2 grams, totaling 30 grams of protein, 596 calories. And so here's our meal breakdown, and this is from MyFitnessPal, giving us a breakdown of all of these meals possible. So here we have the one with the breakfast burritos on the right and those, protein pancakes on the left. Take a second, pause it if you want to dive in a little deeper and really see the breakdown. Questions? All right. Well, thanks for joining me today and listening in. And feel free to send emails out with questions, comments, and concerns. But hope you all have a great day.